Demonstration of a parcel transfer using the Ethereum Atlas project. The way you would transfer a parcel using a project like this is you would go up and you would click the transfer button in the upper right hand corner. This is going to present you with an interface which has a number of options on it. The first one allows you to select your address from your currently running Geth node. Several of these addresses are registered specifically with the contract. One of them is a federal address, one of them is a judicial address, and one of them is a notary address. The majority of addresses, however, are simply not an officer of any sort. So in order to transfer a parcel, you would select the parcel from the drop-down. Right now, for this proof of concept, this drop-down contains every parcel registered with the contract. We're going to transfer the park. And as we can see, the owner of the park is a Mr. D, and the identifying address of this parcel in this contract is this string starting with 655. So we're going to go ahead and transfer the parcel. We're actually just going to transfer it off to, normally you would put the new deeds parcel address here, but we're just going to transfer it to 99, and we'll transfer it to a Mr. Smith. Right? Now normally the owner's secret key would be a long string that you would scan using a QR code reader, and I can demo that later. But for the moment, Mr. D happens to have a particularly insecure secret key, and his secret key is actually D. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in that key, and then we're going to go ahead and click transfer. Now at this point there should be nothing visible that changes. This simply starts the process of transferring the key. The second thing that happens is we need someone who has the officer type notary to also make that transaction to indicate that yes, they are a notary and they've seen that this is taking place and is appropriate. And the way they signal that they're doing it that way is they simply do not put in any owner key, and they also click transfer. So at this point we can go over and we should be able to see these actions occurring on the blockchain. This is the locally running Geth node, and we can see these actions have come through. And then back to this page, we can simply reload, and we should see that now the owner of the park, rather than being Mr. D, is Mr. Smith, and the owner address has been set to this. So that's the normal pathway for transferring a parcel. There's a second parcel option. Let's say that we lost the deed, so we don't have the appropriate secret key. In the case with Mr. Smith, we in fact do not, since I just made up this key. So what we can do is, for convenience, down at the bottom, I made a secret key to owner hash display tool. So we're just going to put back in the sort of poorly thought out secret key D, or maybe let's go ahead and use R instead, right? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to say, all right, we've got your new secret key. Let's transfer this back to Mr. Smith, but you lost your secret key, so we're going to produce this one with the new secret key. We're still going to give it to Mr. Smith. But this time, because we don't actually have the appropriate old owner key, we're going to need to transfer this from a federal, a judicial, and a notary. So we're just going to go ahead and make sure that we have a federal officer type account selected and click the transfer button. And then we can go ahead and move over to the judicial one and click the transfer button, since all of this has remained the same. Now normally this would be obviously 3 different people at 3 different accounts who would need to re-enter this data. And then finally, you always need a notary to validate anything. And once again, we'll click the transfer button. If we go ahead and look back over here, we should be able to see those changes coming through on the blockchain. Not actually sure. I saw the notary one come through, so let's go ahead. Yep, there we go. There it is. And we need to wait for just a minute for that to get mined by the blockchain. And then we can go ahead and come back here. Now, since we just went ahead and transferred it to Mr. Smith, the only thing we're expecting to see change here is this ownership code. So we're going to go ahead and then come on back, and that's Monroe Street if we come back to the park. So Mr. Smith has recovered his property thanks to administrative action, and you can see the key here. And you can see the property highlighted in the map below hand, and that each of the different properties has a different location in this setting.